House of Commons on the legalisation of medicinal cannabis in the UK, and she joins me now to talk about where we are here in Ireland currently on the issue of medicinal cannabis. Vera, you're very welcome.
Thanks very much. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad, thanks.
Did you ever expect to find yourself in Westminster addressing the House of Commons?
Well, I don't think I ever expected to be above and Dáil and talking to ministers, never mind to be invited over to the House of Commons, to be honest with you. But we were invited over to speak about what we had gone through and the licence that was granted for Ava.
Yeah.
And it was a very extraordinary experience. There were 4 MPs. There was the Attorney General. There were consultants, doctors, nurses, members of the police attended, which I thought was very interesting because they were highlighting that they really do not want to be arresting people that are using cannabis for medicinal purposes, and they were very, very clear about that. So it was an extraordinary experience. Felt very listened to and very disappointed that people like us that are looking for medical cannabis for their families aren't getting the hearing over here that we got over there.
Was that difficult? Was the fact that you went outside, I don't mean about going now to Holland, we'll come to that in a second, but you went outside Ireland to be listened to by, I suppose, decision makers, whereas here you feel maybe you aren't listened to.
Yeah, I mean, it was an extraordinary compliment to be invited, but I suppose beyond being invited, it was very upsetting that politicians from across the water wanted to talk to us. We didn't canvass them to look for a hearing from them. They reached out their hands to ask us for our opinion and for how it went and what we went through. And I suppose the thing about the situation in Ireland is the medicinal cannabis bill has been voted by a majority of the Dáil to progress to the next stage.
Yeah.
And that happened last year in November of 2017, and all the parties are supportive of this medicinal cannabis bill, and the only party that is blocking it is the actual government themselves. So the government are holding back the moving forward of this very reasonable bill regarding the legislation for medicinal cannabis.
Okay.
And that has to change because, people are in terrible, terrible situations. My friend Noreen O'Neill is planning to climb Croagh Patrick on Sunday as a means of highlighting the need for her son Michael to get access to medical cannabis to treat his seizures.
Okay.
She is trying to get a meeting with Simon Harris, and she has been refused. The neurologist has refused to apply for a license for Michael for medical cannabis. People need to be heard.
Oh no, I agree with you. I wanted to ask you about Ava though, Vera. When did you first know that Ava had health issues?
Ava had her first seizure when she was 4 months old.
Right.
She had a 45-minute seizure, was the very first one. So I mean, we knew quite quickly that there was something very, very wrong, and within, I suppose, about 2 months, we were diagnosed with Dravet syndrome, which is a very rare form of epilepsy. And our daughter was given a very, very, her diagnosis was catastrophic, I suppose.
Yeah.
They told us she'd never walk or speak, that she'd be in a wheelchair. And, over the course of the years, while we tried all of the pharmaceutical medications.
So you tried all the anti-epileptic medication?
Yes, we did, yeah. She would have spent about 4 or 5 months of every year inside in hospital with the seizures. And gradually, as all the pharmaceutical medications one by one failed, we found these extraordinary stories over in America of Charlotte Figge and children who were being treated with epilepsy like Ava's with cannabis, and gradually we researched it and saw the credibility of it.
Yeah. So Ava's there, and she's your pride and joy, no doubt, your little girl. Yeah. She's, how many seizures a day was she having?
She was having up to 20 a day, and they would be the serious tonic-clonic seizures, and beyond that she would be having other more less dramatic seizures as well. But I suppose,
so completely uncontrolled epilepsy.
Even on the medication, she was still having those seizures. Yeah. She suffered a heart attack. She suffered a coma for 8 days.
Your heart must have been broken, Vera.
Oh, you just don't believe that it could happen to you, you know. But the thing is, it does. And I suppose all you can do is try and look for something, look for the answer. Unfortunately for Ava, we found the answer.
Yes, and you yourselves went off and did as any parent I think would with a child as sick as Ava had been. Yeah. You went off and you researched and you saw that there was some people saying that the kind of epilepsy she had was responding to medicinal cannabis. And what happened then?
Well, we got access to the CBD oil on its own from the hemp store in Capel Street in Dublin, the Charlotte's Web oil. It would have been October of 16. And I think it's very important to point out that our Ava has not been admitted in an emergency to hospital since she began the CBD oil in October of 16.
And that's despite previously having been in for five months of the year on average.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the point about that is, I suppose, economically for the government, they're holding the bill back on a money message at the moment, it's called, and the money message is basically that a bill being brought forward that could cost the state money. And my point would be that Leo Varadkar and Simon Harris have an extraordinary opportunity with medical cannabis to save the state millions, because one child, my daughter alone, we did some very basic figures of how much a bed would have cost to cover our daughter for 4 or 5 months of the year from 2010 to 2016, and we estimate that could be up to 100,000 euros.
Yeah, for sure, if she was in for that length of time.
Yeah, that's just one patient. So I think that, you know, if the people are going to their consultants, and their consultants are saying, I know nothing about medical cannabis, I can't prescribe this for you, I don't know anything about it. So the government really have to do something to allow the consultants who are receptive to learning about medical cannabis. CBD and THC, they have to be rescheduled. They're scheduled now as a drug that has no medicinal property. But
it has been licensed though in certain circumstances. We'll talk about that in a second, because I kind of want to know more about Ava. So you got some CBD oil, and you felt she started to improve, but then in the end you travelled to Holland.
Well, she started the CBD in the October of 16, and her seizures would have decreased by about 90%. I would never be somebody that would come out and say this is a cure, you know. I don't think that's fair or reasonable. But what the CBD on its own initially did for our daughter was it gave us seizure control, essentially, because she was having upwards of 300 and 400 seizures every month. So between the October, November, December time, I think she had maybe less than a dozen tonic-clonic seizures, which for her condition was extraordinary.
She was having that in a day, more or less.
Yeah,
okay.
You would.
So you would have said, is it fair to say you saw a dramatic change?
Oh, very fair. Very fair to say. I mean, you know, what it did was it gave her space to improve. You know, her balance improved, her ability to just, you know, eat her food, to pick up a fork and, you know, or spoon and make efforts to eat her food, everything. And just her awareness changed, you know. She was more aware and more with us.
Kind of more interactive.
Yeah, more interactive. Because I suppose the pharmaceutical medications had really deadened her down an awful lot.
Yeah, they do.
The side effects of the pharmaceuticals were very severe on her body as well. Whereas my experience of CBD and THC oil is that it's the gentlest medication I've ever encountered. She's free of pain, and she's, I don't mean to be soppy now, right? But
you're allowed to be soppy in fairness. Talk about your daughter.
But she told me that she loved me about 2 weeks ago there, and when we were in the middle of what we were going through, well, you didn't have expectations like that,
Yeah.
She cycled her bike around the back of the house.
This is the girl who was never going to walk.
Yeah. Well, she is walking and she's running. And she's pedaling now again. She was doing that before, but she lost the ability to do it after the seizures. But it's back, and there's tremendous hope. There's so much hope with this medication in your hands. So
she's a different girl to the girl before she was treated.
Oh, completely. Yeah, like you can see the devilment in her eyes now. You can see the light in her face. She's able to engage, and the words are coming. Her speech would have been severely delayed now, but she's forming sentences, and they're not very clear yet. But like as I said, you're picking out the words.
Yeah.
Like I picked that "I love you" out there just a few weeks ago, and sure, like that'd just bring the tears to your eyes. Like it's all worth it.
Yeah.
And I just think that
you had to go to Holland though, because obviously you initially got the CBD oil in Capel Street or wherever, but you decided ultimately to bring her abroad.
Our experience with the CBD oil was that the CBD oil's effect starts to wane a little bit after a few months of using it.
Yeah.
And we could see that we needed the THC to add on to the CBD oil. But we weren't going to get it in Ireland, and we could not, after seeing the tremendous progress that she'd made, we couldn't face going back to where we had been previously. So we had to leave, and we left on June 17th of last year.
Yeah.
And we were 6 months out in Holland. And the separation was terrible.
Yeah, you have other kids too, don't you?
Yeah. And I have 3 other children younger than Eva, and we brought our kids with us, and but they had to come back to school in September, and it was very, very difficult.
No, I well believe it. Believe it.
Yeah.
So you did that, and you felt that she made progress over there as well?
Oh, she did. And she was on the CBD and THC oil over in Holland, prescribed by our neurologist and dispensed by the Transvaal Pharmacy in The Hague.
So all above board, you weren't down in the head shops or anything.
No,
it was all done medically and supervised and all that.
Yeah, and the very important thing is that you have the consistency that you deserve.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the CBD and THC is classified as a medicine in Holland.
Yeah.
So I think just because there's some negativity coming out from certain quarters in Ireland about CBD and THC not having medical properties. Well, I'm sorry to say to anybody that makes that point that it certainly has medicinal properties, because I don't think the Dutch government would be in favour of classifying CBD and THC as a medicine if it didn't have those medical properties.
It is going to be, or it should already be under licence available in Ireland for the types of epilepsy that you have, for MS, for certain chemo patients and things like that. Are you? I suppose it's a stupid question maybe, but how do you feel about the progress that's being made around the use of medicinal cannabis here? Because
it's grim and hopeless. There's no progress. The bill is stalled. The Compassionate Access Programme, nobody knows what's happening about the Compassionate Access Programme. And if Simon Harris is listening to this at the moment, or one of his people, could they please make a statement and tell us what they're doing? Or more expeditiously do something about lifting the money message on the bill, because it's completely unsatisfactory anyway to have access to medicinal cannabis for only the limited amount of patients. For example, people being offered under the Compassionate Access Programme medical cannabis for the side effects of chemotherapy. People should be allowed the option of accessing medical cannabis to treat their cancer. And I would just like to say as well, just to point out to Simon, to Leo, to anybody in the government that is listening at the moment or will hear this at some stage, I was in my home one of the nights here during the week, and 2 to 3 people arrived at my door. They had driven around my village, calling into my neighbours, looking to find out where we lived.
Random people you didn't know?
We did not know them. They came to my house looking for cannabis from me. You know?
Okay.
And I mean, I have a family. I can't have people calling to my home.
And that's not your thing to be doing anyway.
Job.
No.
This is what is happening because of the inaction of the Minister for Health on this issue.
Okay.
People have researched. People know other people who are getting cannabis, you know, on the black market. They're breaking the law. They're getting cannabis illegally. But once they have it and use it, the conditions that they have are either cured or their symptoms are alleviated. And these are the facts. And that is why people are out on the road, driving around, looking for help.
All right.
People, I mean, as I said, the bill was voted by the majority of the parties in the government. And it's simply not good enough that nothing is being done. Because there are hundreds and thousands of people out there that have been fighting and supporting this as long as Ava has needed it, and before Ava ever needed it, there have been many, many wonderful people trying to raise the issue of medical cannabis and how effective it is. So it's completely unacceptable that nothing is being done. Do you know?
I do, no, and I hear your distress for, and look, I am very glad to hear that Ava is doing better.
Well, I mean, she is doing so well, you know, and I mean, everything is different. Everything is better. She's just able to have such a normal interaction with her brother and her sisters now. You know, she's able to have fun and laugh and to see her like that. It's such a privilege to see her. But I would just say that, you know, the way that it's being, the licensing system and the way you have to go about getting the license, it's not working, you know. So they have to bring the compassionate access program forward. They have to legislate and allow the bill to progress, but they have to do something.
Okay.
Because
I hear you.
people's lives, while they're deciding what they're going to do, people are losing their lives. Or little children with epilepsy like Ava.
I genuinely take your point, and listen, fair play to you. And lots of people are saying fair play to you too. No, you're not. No, I'm not saying that at all. Somebody says, what a sincere and compassionate testimonial from an ordinary mum doing a superhuman job for her beloved daughter. We must make this drug available in Ireland. Wishing Vera very well, and that's from Margaret. Somebody else says fair play to Vera for never giving up on Ava. She is a lucky girl to have her as your mum, and there's lots more in that vein too, Vera. So listen, thank you for talking to us.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Not at all. That's Vera Twomey there, who has obviously been campaigning about medicinal cannabis. Look, and lots of people are saying it's morally wrong to keep medicinal cannabis away from children, people who need it. This is not wacky-backy. Think on this. Someone else says, if your listeners would like to see the benefits of medicinal cannabis, they should look at Jason and Jaden's journey on YouTube. It'll make you cry, but it'll fill you with hope as well, and lots more in that. I have to put my little caveat in. I just have to. Now, CBD and those types of things, they do have roles. We do need medicinal cannabis. They do have roles in MS. They do have roles in chemo. They do have roles in chronic pain. They do have roles in epilepsy, exactly as Ava Twomey has been suffering with. They're not a panacea. There's no evidence to prove that they actually cure things like cancer, even though people want them to, and a lot of people do believe they're kind of a wonder drug that it's not. And that's an issue too, because people will want to have medicinal cannabis for all sorts of things that actually it doesn't actually do anything for, but it does do stuff for some things. And here's what I think if we use medicinal opioids and medicinal benzodiazepines and all those kinds of drugs that also have recreational uses that people do, we should also use medicinal cannabis, because it has been shown to be beneficial in some things, and for those things we should be giving it to people. I think it's as simple as that. I just don't think it's a panacea, but I think for the people like Ava Twomey who are benefiting from it, of course they should have it. It's a no-brainer, isn't it? And one of our listeners is on the line now to tell us his experience. Garrett, you've used CBD oil. Tell me about that.
Yeah, hi. Well, my story is, I just like to say for Vera there that fair play to that lady on the phone.
Yeah.
My own story is that I have two sons who are both diagnosed with ASD. They're not severe ASD, they're kind of at the higher functioning end, but my wife heard about the Charlotte's Web oil, and we started using that about a year ago, and, I would like to say I am an extreme skeptic when it comes to stuff. I don't believe anything unless I see it.
Yep.
So, we decided to start using it about a year ago. I thought, well, if it makes you feel better, go ahead, but I have to say a year down the line, it has genuinely made a marginal but very, very noticeable difference, in particular with my youngest son, who was very, very hyperactive, didn't really interact, didn't really talk a whole lot. And
what's he doing now, Garrett?
Well, what I've noticed different is, how I would put it is that his head is up, that it seems to have taken away a lot of whether it was anxiety or energy or whatever it was that was driving up to, he would just run up and down, verbal stimulus. Whereas now he's a lot quieter and he talks with his brother a lot more. He makes eye contact. Okay. I mean, it hasn't changed our lives, but I'll tell you, I would genuinely, despite my skepticism, say it has made
I think
a proper difference.
To be honest, I think skepticism is healthy in all things, isn't it? Just with regard to, because a lot of people are texting us in about ordering cannabis online for loads of different things, some of which I don't even know if we can read out. But what about risks? Do you have any concerns about risks, either side effects or also in terms of legality, or where do you stand at the moment on any of that?
Look, personally, I think, for Charlotte's Web oil, it doesn't get you stoned, right? So it's not that side of it. To me, look, I don't know. I'm a layperson, so to me, it's no difference to giving them, omega-3 oil or other vitamins. I don't know anything about it. It seems to me to be a natural product. So I personally don't have any concerns. I haven't seen any side effects.
You haven't seen any? Okay.
Personally, I haven't, no.
Okay, all right. No, look, thank you for talking to us, because I think we need to have this conversation, don't we? We need to decide, and we're not saying vote, as in everyone should vote whether or not. It's not like that. But clearly there are, you heard Vera Twomey there, clearly there are some conditions that benefit dramatically from it, and it seems to me that there's no argument really against using it for things like that, and I don't think that there can be. But thanks, Gareth. Thank you for talking to us there. 53106, this is Ciara here on Newstalk. Do let us know what you think. We're not suggesting, as somebody said on Twitter, that we're suggesting that we will decide by popular vote what happens with these things. We just want to know what people think about all of these kinds of things that affect people and our society, and that is, I suppose, why we're discussing this. And fair play to Vera Twomey. I think most people can hear the absolute determination and devotion she had to getting some kind of treatment for Ava, who was clearly a very sick little girl, and we wish her very, very well in all of this. Coming up after this, let's talk about sex. Lunchtime.